yesterday from the Defence Secretary Ben Wallace that around 900 foreign fighters went to go and support Islamic State came from Britain. And he gave some pretty startling stats. He said that of those, around 20% have been killed, 40% remain in the region, and a further 40% have come back to Britain. That means, as has been widely documented before, that there are hundreds of returning jihadists so committed to the ISIS cause that they went to go and support them, who are now back in the country. I think this is completely and utterly unacceptable. You know, the Telegraph in 2018 had a report that showed just 10% of returning jihadists have even been prosecuted. That isn't justice at all. Rory Stewart, not exactly known as a hardliner, but someone who was a deputy governor in Iraq. When he was minister, he said that the only way to deal with British IS fighters in Syria, in almost every case, is to kill them. He said converts to the Islamic State believe an extremely hateful doctrine and had moved away from any allegiance to Britain. I think it's deeply disturbing that in our weakness we have allowed back large numbers, hundreds of returning jihadists. If the argument is that these people, as has been put forward, that the majority assess now pose no risk or a low security risk, just how much resource from an intelligence agencies is having to be put now on monitoring these people? It's a huge burden to monitor and assess. And is it really worth the risk? After all, these people went and supported a group that was openly raping people, burning people alive, abusing children. This wasn't a secret. This was known. And those that went to go and support this group, in my opinion, should be left to rot out there. I think it is gross negligence for us to have allowed hundreds to have returned. And indeed, I saw a recent poll from Sky News in the last few years that showed when you ask people, should we stop someone from returning even if it renders them stateless, 65% of the British public are in favour. Those that went to go and support this barbaric death cult who burn people alive, rape people and kill people on an industrial scale aren't welcome back in Britain. And I find it, as I say, deeply disturbing that we have allowed not a dozen or a couple of dozen, but hundreds to have returned. I imagine this has taken an absolutely huge amount of resource from our security services to monitor and ensure they no longer pose a security threat. But morally, how can it be right that, as I say, on the last report, 90% of returning jihadists haven't even been prosecuted? That isn't right. That isn't justice.